What's going on today, guys? I wanted to talk about a few things in your camera that can make you get some better shots and have your creativity flowing a little bit better. Stay tuned. Okay, so one of the things with Aperture is you want to be able to drop your aperture so that you can pull things in the forefront closer, and the things that are in the back also blur those out as well. So like I was saying in the video earlier, if you have it at 2.8, 1.4, it's gonna get really shallow. So the things that are behind it are really just blurred out, bokeh'd out. If there's anybody that's confused, make sure to ask questions and leave it in the comments section. All right, today we're finna be going over camera settings as far as like aperture, shutter speed, ISO, and we're gonna be working with boy Lanier. We're working on a short film that we're working on, a little series, but I'm gonna try to educate y'all a little bit on what's what and how to make your camera get the kind of look that you want it to get. Okay, for instance, we got Lanier here at 2.2 at the f-stop. ISO at 100. I got it so low because it's so bright in the background, but with my f-stop being so low, everything else is gonna be blown out. But you can tell that he's the only thing that's really in focus because the f-stop is so low, and the it starts to open that camera sensor up. So now everything's like brightened. All the sunlight is coming into the camera, and you can see him. Now, if we do this, we start to bump it up. We go up a few stops on our. Notice how everything else is starting to kind of come into focus. You get a little more contrast, and I'm keeping everything at ISO 100, if this is making sense to y'all. That's like the fake camera light, in my personal opinion. So now everything's looking a little more contrasted, but everything else is starting to become a little bit more in focus. So let me bump it up a few more for y'all. So we went from a 4, now we're gonna go to an 8. Everything is really starting to come into focus because we're bumping up our f-stop, but at the same time I need to compensate with my ISO so I can get that look that I want. He's still the main thing that's in focus, but the trees behind them are starting to kind of come into focus. It's not as much bokeh. I'm at 250 ISO. When I go to 320, it gets a little bit better. It depends on the image that I want. Something like this I can still color grade if I was going to shoot it as far as log, but this camera doesn't have log, so I'm just kind of giving y'all the easy playback for what would make sense to do with like a starter camera. Okay, so now let's see what we can do if we go up some more. We still got him in focus. Now we're gonna bump it to a 13. Sorry for the camera shake. Everything is starting to notice how the trees and the sun and the trees back there by the sun, the people walking behind him, they even look like they're becoming more in focus, even though he's still the main focus, but it's dark. So in order to compensate, I do what? I bump my ISO. I don't want to mess with my shutter because I want this shot at 24 frames a second and I want the film look. So now we have him in focus. There's people walking behind him that's in focus, and this is a perfect example right here. I'm gonna show y'all this real quick. We're gonna go back down. We want him to be the main thing in focus. So now we're gonna go all the way down. Look at that sensor opening up. We're gonna go to a 3.2. I'm gonna drop down to a 100, as low as I can get it. Now what do we notice? What do we notice, if anything? He's the main thing that's in focus. He's pretty much the star of the show in his lens. Those same trees that were in the background, they've become out of focus. Those trees that were back there by the sun, out of focus. So this is just a small snippet of what I would mean when I say aperture and what it can do for your image. I know this stuff can be confusing at some point. So what I do is, if I want to get creative with my shots, I'll put things in the forefront and blur those out, have my subject right behind it, and have the rest of the background. It's almost like layers, right? So for example, okay, you got trees, let's say this, you got grass, tall grass in the front, I got my person in the back, and I got my background, whether that be mountains or whatever. That's all bokeh'd out. The person's in focus, and the thing that's in the front, the grass in the foreground, is also gonna be blurred out. But I can make the shot look more creative by doing little small things like that. Some of the stuff I'm going through with Lanier here, you can kind of see like, oh, what he's saying is starting to make sense. If you just look at it, I know it takes a little bit. The shot where I'm throwing the lightsaber up in the air, that's a high frame rate. That's why that looks so smooth, and I'm able to slow that down so easy. It's almost like having I got an idea. Each one of these is 60 frames. Say I had like a cartoon drawing, it was animation. The more pages I have to do like this, the more smoother that the footage is gonna look. Now say I'm shooting at 60, you're like, okay, that looks pretty smooth. If I have 125 of these, each little drawing is gonna look a whole lot more smoother versus if I had like 24, which is what we usually do in movies and films. When you go to the movies and see that, they normally shoot at like only 24. So they're not gonna slow that down because it's gonna be a little choppy, if that makes sense. You don't have as many frames to use. It's like I said, if you guys have any confusion about any of this, definitely leave me a comment or just hit me up. I know I dropped these on Facebook, YouTube. Got any questions? Please ask. But I want this to be very easy for y'all to get. ISO is more so kind of like your fake camera light. Like now in my room, I have it at 1600, only because it's so dark in here, and I have a light on me as well, and I got my Aperture MC. You know what I'm saying? I just kind of keep that there, you know what I mean, to add for more style and appeal. If this doesn't make sense to any of you guys, please let me know, because I know there can be confusion with this stuff, especially just now starting out. I've been doing this for a while, so it naturally kind of comes easy, like, okay, I know what I want, and I'm still learning to this day. Like I always say, continue to keep learning, continue to keep pushing yourself and challenging yourself to try different things and new things, and you should be all right. Again, if you have any questions, leave a comment below. Always hit this like button for me and share it to the people that are interested in stuff like this, because I think the world is kind of headed into a video type realm, to be honest with you, and it would be cool to see everybody be able to get creative and do different things with their videos. Now that films, we're signing off. Thanks.